Good evening, this is TVS Nightline. We begin with this story. The Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, is investigating 5 individuals suspected of spreading false information on fuel price hikes via social media. In a statement on Thursday, MCMC says 3 of the 5 individuals have been called in to record their statements.
MCMC explains that it receives complaints from a local media company stating that the viral false content does not originate from them but is instead produced by a third party. The investigation is being conducted under Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998, which provides for a maximum fine of 500,000 ringgit or imprisonment of up to 2 years, or both upon conviction. MCMC stresses that it takes seriously any misuse of social media platforms to mislead the public through the spread of false information.
Sarawak is stepping up its disaster readiness as the region braces for the combined threats of wildfires and water shortages. With the hot and dry season now underway, Deputy Premier Dato' Amar Douglas Uga Ambas has directed all divisional and district committees to remain on high alert. The move comes after fires were reported in 8 separate locations over recent days, including Miri and Muka.
While authorities confirm all recent blazes are now under control, officials are treating these incidents as a critical warning sign. Special focus is being placed on fire-prone pit soil areas where the risk of smoldering underground fires remains high during the current dry spell.
Tetapi ini satu amaran kepada seluruh rakyat Sarawak kerana musim panas dan kering ini baru mula. Kita telah mengarahkan semua jawatankuasa pengurusan bencana di peringkat bahagian dan peringkat bahagian dan peringkat daerah untuk bersiap siaga. Ada 2 cabaran yang kita hadapi. Satu adalah kebakaran. Kerana di Sarawak, mesti seperti tahun-tahun yang lepas, kita telah menyaksikan beberapa tempat yang kerap berlaku kebakaran. Misalnya di Kuala Barang, di Muka dan di beberapa tempat. Jadi kita minta jawatankuasa pengurusan bencana untuk satu, memantau keadaan khususnya di tanah gambut, dan apa-apa ada bukti kebakaran berlaku, tindakan harus diambil dengan seberapa cepat.
Beyond the risk of fire, the government is also addressing concerns over water security. The Rural Water Supply and Welfare Departments are now monitoring vulnerable areas to ensure immediate relief if supplies run low. Citizens are being urged to refrain from open burning as environmental authorities increase hotspots monitoring to prevent large-scale disasters in the weeks ahead.
Global markets are reacting sharply as tensions escalate in the Middle East. Iran and the US are trading fresh threats, while leaders worldwide warn of deepening economic fallout. Cheryl Toh brings us more details on the matter.
Thank you, Radzi. On to the West Asia conflict development. Oil prices surge and stocks fall on Thursday after Donald Trump reiterates that U.S. forces hammer Iran for the next 2 to 3 weeks, while offering no clear solution to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz that continues to disrupt global markets. Investors remain unconvinced by his first prime-time address since the war begins, as he again urges countries dependent on the waterway to take action to reopen it. The speech offers little new direction, with Trump repeating warnings of intensified military action and expressing confidence that U.S. forces meet their battlefield objectives soon. The remarks stall a fragile recovery in global markets, which is earlier buoyed by signals from both Washington and Tehran suggesting the conflict could end in the near term. Meanwhile, Iran threatens intensified attacks on the U.S. and Israel, launching missiles toward Tel Aviv after U.S. President Donald Trump signals further escalation against the Islamic Republic. The war, now more than a month old and sparked by U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, spreads across the Middle East and continues to rattle the global economy, affecting hundreds of millions of people. Iran responds swiftly, triggering Israeli air defenses and prompting police to attend several impact sites, with reports of minor injuries in the Tel Aviv area. Iran's Qatam al-Anbiya military command warns of broader, more destructive operations against U.S. and Israeli targets, vowing to press on with the conflict until its objectives are achieved. In Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the original objectives of the war in Iran have been met, raising questions over what more can be achieved. He calls for de-escalation, noting that U.S.-Israeli strikes significantly weaken Iran's Air Force, Navy and military-industrial base. Albanese says the end goal of the conflict remains unclear, warning that the longer the war continues, the greater the impact on the global economy. Iran's Revolutionary Guards, IRGC, insists the strategic Strait of Hormuz remains closed to what it describes as hostile nations, reinforcing Tehran's stance despite mounting international pressure to restore maritime access. The waterway, which carries around a fifth of the world's oil supply, remains a critical flashpoint in the conflict, with disruptions already driving volatility in global energy markets. The closure also complicates ceasefire efforts as U.S. President Donald Trump lists reopening the strait as a key condition, while Iran continues to use it as strategic leverage in the war. And lastly, Razi, World Bank raises strong concern over the war's impact on inflation, employment and food security, as it engages with member states to address urgent needs arising from the crisis. Managing Director Pascal Donahoe highlights coordinated efforts with the International Monetary Fund and the International Energy Agency to respond to the growing economic strain. He warns that countries in Asia and Africa are especially vulnerable to energy disruptions, rising prices and supply shocks, as governments work to assess the full scale of the impact in the coming weeks. Now, Razi, that wraps up the West Asia update today. Over to you in the studio.
Thanks, Cheryl. Israel has intensified its attack on Lebanon this week, hitting areas outside of Hezbollah's control. Tensions remain high following recent events, while the Israel military has issued fresh evacuation on orders for communities in southern Lebanon. RT correspondent Steve Sweeney reports from Beirut on the blast in a densely populated neighborhood as Israel's defense minister plans a buffer zone.
Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz has reiterated his warnings once more for people to stay north of the Litani River. In a speech, a statement that he gave following a meeting with military commanders in Israel, he said that Israel plans to take control of that entire area south of the Litani River, and that the 600,000 people that have been forcibly evacuated from that area are not to return. He also said that those frontline villages very, very close to the border are set to be destroyed. This is not really a shift. This is him simply restating what Israel has already said. Now, of course, they pushed that evacuation order further north, areas of the Zarani River. They reissued that evacuation order once again today, but also included new areas, including Somor and other areas of the Bekaa Valley. Now, on the ground, the situation that is unfolding there, Hezbollah still is maintaining that fierce resistance. Battle is taking place along all of those frontline villages where Israel is trying to push forward and gain some ground. Now, for the first time, Israel on Sunday struck a Lebanese army post. They killed one Lebanese soldier. Then again on Sunday in two separate incidents, one on Sunday and one on Monday. Now, again, just to reiterate this statement from Israel Katz, this plan to take that area south of the Litani. This is Steve Sweeney for RT in Beirut.
Meanwhile, a massive 7.4 magnitude quake struck off the coast of eastern Indonesia today, killing one person, damaging buildings and sending people running into the streets in panic. The early morning tremor in the Molucca Sea between the Sulawesi and Maluku Island groups triggered waves of up to 75 centimeters high in places and prompted a tsunami warning that was subsequently lifted.
One person was killed when a building collapsed in Manado. A search and rescue agency later said 3 people in Manado suffered light injuries. An eyewitness recounts the terrifying moments as the earthquake struck, forcing her to scramble to save her children.
Saya sudah bingung menyelamatkan keluarga saya sendiri kan. Saya nggak peduli ini mau rubuh terserah. Saya penting nyawa selamat semua, Bu. Anak saya tiga-tiganya saya tolak, Bu, lari. Terus sampai ini patung. Saya kira patung mau rubuh, Bu. Sebegini-begini patung. Astagfirullah.
The U.S. Geological Survey said the tremor hit at a shallow depth of 35 kilometers. Hawaii-based Pacific Tsunami Warning Center PTWC initially said hazardous tsunami waves were possible within 1,000 kilometers of the epicenter along the coast of Indonesia, the Philippines, and Malaysia. The PTWC lifted its warning just over 2 hours after the tremor, saying the tsunami threat has now passed.
Back home in Malaysia, lawyers are being urged to undergo fundamental changes in values, skills and knowledge to stay relevant in the era of AI and rapid global change. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim says this shift is necessary as the legal world faces major disruptions that will reshape how the profession operates.
The lawyer of 2030 will therefore no longer be a search engine in a suit, not batik, because far more will be required. It follows that what needs to be cultivated today must shift to those that are not easily replicated and complementary to current and upcoming AI capabilities.
He adds that future lawyers must also be equipped to handle increasingly complex cross-border issues.
Have redefined the types of legal assets and solutions that need to be found. The lawyer of the future must therefore be able to navigate the laws of multiple jurisdictions as easily as their own.
Anwar says that the principle of the rule of law is increasingly being challenged in international relations as power often overrides justice, creating what he described as a kind of law of the jungle on the global stage.
We should neither mince words, divert our gaze, nor close our minds, as this is the reality that future lawyers will be stepping into. And this is even without having to point out more obvious challenges, such as mainstreaming of large language and reasoning models.
Deputy Prime Minister Dato Amar Fadillah Yusof announced that energy controls in government buildings will be tightened, including setting air conditioning temperatures at no lower than 24 degrees Celsius following the global energy crisis. Even so, he assures that Malaysia remains in a stable position, but is ready to take proactive measures to manage the impact of the global energy crisis and urged the civil servants to wear climate-appropriate clothing to work to reduce reliance on excessive cooling.
Kawalan penggunaan tenaga di bangunan kerajaan akan diperketatkan. Suhu penghawa dingin ditetapkan pada minimum 24 darjah Celsius. Dan penjawat awam digalakkan memakai pakaian yang lebih sesuai dengan iklim tempatan seperti batik, kemeja korporat atau baju Melayu bagi mengurangkan kebergantungan kepada penyejukan berlebihan.
He noted that disruptions to key routes such as the Strait of Hormuz, which is a vital artery for global oil flows, have heightened market uncertainty and pushed prices higher. Fadillah, who also serves as Minister of Energy Transition and Water Transformation, Petra, says as an open economy, Malaysia is not insulated from the fallout. Therefore, Malaysians must be vigilant and take precautionary measures should the crisis persist.
And that is it for TVS Nightline. Thanks for watching and have a good night.